The stars looked different when you knew death was coming from them. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the alien fleet approach Earth. 500 ships moved in perfect formation, each one gleaming like a crystal in the darkness of space. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked his communications officer. 2 hours, sir," Lieutenant Danny Cooper replied, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. Jake nodded and looked back at the approaching enemy. The Zephyrian Empire had sent this massive fleet to conquer Earth. They believed humans were weak and primitive. The aliens had studied human technology and found it lacking. They thought this would be an easy victory. Admiral Vexitar commanded the alien fleet from his flagship, a ship twice the size of anything humans had ever built. He had conquered 12 worlds before Earth. Each time, the enemy had fought with honor and logic. Each time they had lost quickly when they realized they were outmatched. The Admiral expected the same from humans. The Zephyrian ships were powered by antimatter cores that could generate enormous amounts of energy. Their weapons could turn entire mountains into glass. Their shields could deflect almost any attack. They had been perfecting their war machines for thousands of years while humans had barely figured out how to leave their home planet. But Admiral Vexitar did not understand humans very well. Commander Lisa Hayes sat in the tactical center deep beneath Colorado. She had been studying the alien ships for months, ever since Earth's deep space sensors first detected them. The aliens made no attempt to hide their approach. They wanted humans to see them coming. They wanted to cause fear and panic. "Their ships are impressive," Lisa said to her team, "but they have one major weakness." "What's that?" asked Dr. Amy Nelson, Earth's leading expert on alien technology. "They're predictable," Lisa smiled. "They follow rules. They fight the same way every time. They expect us to do the same." Dr. Nelson had been working day and night to understand how alien technology worked. She had discovered something interesting about their crystalline ships. They were incredibly advanced, but they all operated on the same frequency patterns. This made them efficient and powerful, but it also made them vulnerable in ways the aliens had never considered. Meanwhile, in space, the human fleet prepared for battle. The ships looked nothing like the elegant alien vessels. Human ships were built for function, not beauty. They were covered in armor plating and bristling with weapons that looked crude compared to alien energy beams. The aliens saw this as proof of human inferiority. Captain Ben Parker commanded a squadron of human fighters. His ships were small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. Unlike alien fighters that relied on energy shields and powerful weapons, human fighters were built to survive by not getting hit at all. "Remember," Ben told his pilots over the radio, "we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to win, period." The concept of an unfair fight was foreign to most galactic species. They had rules about warfare, codes of honor that determined how battles should be fought. These rules made sense when both sides had similar technology and tactics. But humans had never been part of the galactic community. They had developed their own ideas about war. As the alien fleet moved closer, Admiral Vexitar opened a communication channel to Earth. His image appeared on screens around the world, a tall, thin being with silver skin and large black eyes. When he spoke, his voice was translated into every human language. "People of Earth," the Admiral said, "I am Admiral Vexitar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world is now under our protection. You will surrender immediately and accept integration into our empire. Resistance is pointless. Your technology cannot match ours." Jake Morrison listened to the ultimatum and laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had been underestimated his entire life. "Send a reply," Jake told his communications officer. The message that went back to the alien fleet was short. "Come and take it." Admiral Vexitar was puzzled by the human response. Most species begged for mercy or tried to negotiate when faced with overwhelming force. Some fought bravely but hopelessly. None had ever responded with such casual defiance. The alien ships began charging their weapons. Energy readings spiked as antimatter cores fed power to plasma cannons. The first wave of the attack would target Earth's orbital defenses, the aliens, expected these to fall quickly, opening the way for planetary bombardment. But as the alien fleet prepared to fire, something unexpected happened. Thousands of objects appeared around Earth, launched from hidden facilities on the Moon and in asteroid belts. To alien sensors, they looked like debris, old satellites, chunks of metal, random garbage floating in space. "What are the humans doing?" Admiral Vexitar asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be littering their own orbital space." The admiral was confused but not concerned. Debris could not stop plasma weapons. He gave the order to commence firing. The first alien salvo lit up space around Earth. Plasma beams easily destroyed the larger pieces of debris, creating brilliant explosions that temporarily blinded sensors on both sides. But as the light faded, the aliens realized something was wrong. Their sensors could no longer get clear readings on human positions. The debris had been coated with materials that scattered energy waves and created false signals. What looked like random garbage was actually a carefully planned deception. "Sir," the alien tactical officer reported, "we're having difficulty targeting human vessels." Admiral Vexitar frowned. This was not how wars were supposed to begin. The enemy was supposed to meet them in open battle, ship against ship, with the better technology winning. Instead, the humans were using tricks and deception. Hidden in the sensor shadows created by the debris field, Captain Parker's fighter squadron moved into position. Their ships were painted black and ran silent, using minimal power to avoid detection. Each fighter carried weapons the aliens had never encountered. Simple kinetic projectiles that would punch through energy shields like they weren't there. Jake Morrison watched the battle unfold from his command bridge. The aliens were powerful, but they fought like they always fought. They followed patterns that had worked for thousands of years. They could not adapt quickly to new situations. "All units," Jake said into his microphone, "remember what we're fighting for. They think we're weak. They think we'll give up easily. Let's show them what humans are really made of." The real battle was about to begin. The debris field around Earth had become a maze of metal and confusion. Admiral Vexitar watched his tactical displays with growing frustration. His advanced sensors, designed to track energy signatures in large masses, could not get clear readings. Through the cloud of reflective materials the humans had deployed. "This is not how civilized species conduct warfare," the admiral muttered to his bridge crew. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Parker smiled inside his fighter cockpit. Civilized warfare was exactly what humans wanted to avoid. His squadron drifted silently through the debris, using pieces of destroyed satellites as cover. Each human fighter was equipped with weapons that no galactic species had used in centuries, simple bullets and missiles that relied on speed and mass rather than energy. "Target the scout ships first," Ben told his pilots. "Hit them fast and get out before they can respond." The alien scout ships moved in predictable patterns, scanning for threats with their sophisticated sensors. They were looking for energy weapons, plasma signatures, and the heat trails of conventional propulsion systems. They were not looking for cold metal objects moving at incredible speeds. Ben's fighter fired first. A stream of bullets, each one the size of a human thumb, struck the alien scout ship's hull. The energy shields that could deflect plasma beams offered no protection against solid projectiles. The bullets punched through the crystalline armor like it was made of glass. The scout ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "Direct hit," Ben called out. "These shields are useless against kinetic weapons." Across the battlefield, more human fighters opened fire. The aliens had never faced an enemy that used such primitive weapons. Their ships were designed to fight other energy-based civilizations. Against simple bullets moving at a significant fraction of light speed, their defenses were worthless. Dr. Amy Nelson watched the battle from her underground bunker. She had spent months studying the alien ships, and now she was ready to test her most important discovery. The crystalline hulls of Zephyrian vessels were incredibly strong, but they had a fatal weakness. They resonated at specific frequencies. "Activate the sonic weapons," Amy ordered her technicians. Hidden transmitters around Earth's orbital space began broadcasting sound waves, but these were not random noises. Amy had calculated the exact frequency that would cause the alien ship's hulls to vibrate and crack. The sound waves were inaudible to humans, but to the crystalline alien ships, they were like hammers hitting glass. The first alien cruiser to be hit by the sonic weapons shook violently. Cracks appeared along its hull as the sound waves matched its resonant frequency. Within seconds, the entire ship shattered like a wine glass hit by an opera singer's high note. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as 3 more of his ships destroyed themselves, their own hulls torn apart by invisible sound waves. "How is this possible?" he demanded. His science officer checked the readings again. "The humans are using sonic weapons, sir. They're targeting our hull composition directly." The Admiral had never heard of such a tactic. Most species use sonic weapons for communication or stunning enemies, not for destroying starships. The humans were breaking every rule of civilized warfare, but the surprises were not over. Major Kate Williams sat in mission control on Earth, her fingers dancing over a keyboard that controlled thousands of satellites in Earth's orbit. These satellites looked like communication devices or weather monitors to alien scanners. In reality, they were mirrors. Solar focus in 3, 2, 1. "Mark," Kate announced. All across Earth's orbital space, satellite mirrors turned to face the sun. They began reflecting and concentrating sunlight into focused beams. The concentrated, solar energy was not powerful enough to destroy alien ships directly, but it had another purpose. The focused light overloaded the aliens' optical sensors and created thermal signatures that confused their targeting computers. Suddenly, the alien fleet was fighting blind, unable to distinguish between real threats and false signals created by reflected sunlight. Captain Jake Morrison seized the opportunity. "All ships advance on the alien fleet. Use the sensor confusion to get in close." The human fleet moved forward, using the chaos to close the distance with the enemy. Human ships were not as fast or as powerful as alien vessels, but they had one advantage. They were unpredictable. Instead of maintaining formation and fighting at long range like civilized species, human captains scattered and attacked from all directions. The aliens tried to adapt. Admiral Vextar ordered his ships to switch to backup sensors and manual targeting. But the humans had anticipated this too. Captain Parker's fighters began dropping what looked like mines throughout the battle area. When alien ships tried to maneuver around these objects, they discovered they were not mines at all. They were nuclear weapons. The first nuclear explosion lit up space like a small sun. The aliens had encountered nuclear technology before, but always as planetary weapons or power sources. No civilized species was crazy enough to use nuclear devices in space combat. The radiation and electromagnetic pulse could damage both sides equally, but humans had designed their ships to survive in a nuclear environment. When the EMP waves from the nuclear explosions washed over the battlefield, human systems kept working while alien electronics failed. "Their computer systems are down," reported Lieutenant Danny Cooper from the Liberty's bridge. "The EMP knocked out their main processors." Jake Morrison grinned. Nuclear weapons were crude and dangerous, but they were effective. The aliens' advanced technology made them vulnerable to electromagnetic interference in ways that simpler human systems were not. As alien ships drifted helplessly through space, their systems rebooting from the nuclear EMP, human fighters moved in for close-range attacks. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez led a squadron of heavy fighters equipped with armor-piercing rockets. These weapons were not elegant or sophisticated, but they could punch holes in anything. "Target their weapon systems," Maria ordered her wing. "Let's make sure they can't shoot back." The aliens watched in disbelief as human fighters closed to point-blank range and began systematically destroying their weapons with crude but effective missiles. This was not warfare as they understood it. This was more like a bar fight with starships. Admiral Vextar realized he was losing control of the battle. His superior technology meant nothing if his ships could not function. His advanced tactics were useless against enemies who refused to follow any recognizable strategy. "All ships fall back to secondary positions," the Admiral ordered. "We need time to adapt to these unusual methods." But as the alien fleet began to retreat, Dr. Amy Nelson prepared to test her final surprise. She had been working on something that would have been impossible for any other species to create: a computer virus designed specifically for logical AI systems. The virus was ready, and it would soon turn the aliens' greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display with growing anger. His fleet had been forced to retreat from a species that barely knew how to leave their own planet. This was not just a military defeat. It was a humiliation that would echo across the galaxy if word got out. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we've lost 47 ships to human attacks. Their weapons are primitive, but effective." The admiral's silver skin darkened with rage. 47 ships destroyed by bullets, sound waves, and nuclear bombs, weapons so crude that no civilized military academy even taught defenses against them. The humans were making the Zephyrian Empire look like fools. "Prepare the final protocol," Admiral Vextar commanded. His bridge crew exchanged worried glances. The final protocol was a weapon of absolute destruction, designed to sterilize entire planets. It had been used 12 times before against species that refused to surrender. The energy discharge would turn Earth's atmosphere into plasma and boil its oceans away. "Sir," the science officer said carefully, "the final protocol requires 6 hours to charge our main weapons. The energy buildup will be visible to human sensors." "Good," the admiral replied coldly. "Let them see their doom approaching. Perhaps they will finally understand their situation and surrender." But Admiral Vexitar did not understand humans at all. Captain Jake Morrison received the report about the alien energy buildup with grim determination. Earth scientists had detected similar signatures in the ruins of other worlds the Zephyrians had conquered. They knew exactly what it meant. 6 hours, Jake said to his command staff. "That's all the time we have left." General Chris Davis, commander of Earth's ground forces, looked up from a tactical display showing the alien flagship. "Then we do something insane. We board their command ship." The room fell silent. Boarding an enemy vessel in space combat was considered suicide by every military expert on Earth. The aliens would see any boarding craft coming and destroy it long before it could reach their ship. Even if somehow a boarding party made it inside, they would be vastly outnumbered and outgunned. "It's impossible," said Commander Lisa Hayes. "Exactly," General Davis replied. "That's why it might work. They'll never expect it." Dr. Amy Nelson had been listening to the discussion while working on her computer. "I can help," she said quietly. "I finished the virus. If we can get close enough to their ship to transmit it, I can disable their systems." Jake looked at the assembled officers. These were the best military minds Earth had produced, and they were planning something that violated every rule of warfare ever written. But desperate times called for desperate measures. "We'll need a distraction," Jake said. "Something big enough to keep their attention while a boarding party gets close." Lieutenant Colonel Ben Parker volunteered his fighter squadron for the distraction mission. "We'll hit them from all sides, make as much noise as possible, but you'll only have a small window to get aboard." The boarding party would be led by Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, a Special Forces veteran who had trained for urban combat, not space battles. But space battles had never involved breaking into enemy ships with crowbars and explosives before. "How many people can we put on their ship?" General Davis asked. 20, maybe 30 if we're lucky," Maria replied. "Any more and we'll be detected for sure." 30 soldiers against a ship with thousands of alien crew members. The odds were hopeless, but humans had never let hopeless odds stop them before. Dr. Amy Nelson explained how the virus would work.
Alien AI systems are perfectly logical. They expect all data to make sense. The virus doesn't try to destroy their computers. It just feeds them random, contradictory information. Their systems will spend so much time trying to make sense of
the chaos that they won't be able to function properly. Staff Sergeant Mike Thompson, the team's demolitions expert, was studying blueprints of alien ship construction. "Their doors use energy locks," he said, "but I bet a good old-fashioned explosion will open them just fine." The plan was taking shape. Human fighters would create a distraction while a small boarding craft approached the alien flagship. The boarding party would fight their way to the command center, upload the virus, and either capture the ship or die trying. Captain Morrison looked at the people around the table. They were planning to assault a ship that was technologically superior in every way. They had no backup plan because there was no time to make one. If this failed, Earth would be destroyed in 6 hours. "Are we really going to try this?" he asked. Yes, Maria Rodriguez answered without hesitation. Because if we don't, everyone on Earth dies anyway. The boarding craft was hastily modified from a cargo shuttle. Its hull was reinforced with armor plating, and its cargo bay was filled with weapons that most galactic species would consider too dangerous for space combat. Shaped charges, thermal cutters, and electromagnetic pulse generators, tools for breaking things rather than elegant weapons of war. As the boarding party prepared, their equipment, Ben Parker's fighters launched from their hidden positions in the asteroid belt. They had been waiting in silence, their systems powered down to avoid detection. Now they fired up their engines and accelerated toward the alien fleet at maximum speed. All squadrons, this is Parker, Ben announced over the radio. Time to give them something to think about. The fighters attacked from 6 different directions simultaneously, firing everything they had at the alien ships. Missiles, bullets, and nuclear warheads streaked across space. The aliens, caught off guard by the sudden assault, turned all their weapons toward the attacking fighters. In the chaos of the battle, nobody noticed one small cargo shuttle approaching the flagship from below. Maria Rodriguez watched the alien ship grow larger through the shuttle's viewport. The vessel was beautiful in a terrifying way, its crystalline hull reflecting the explosions of the battle raging around them. Soon she would be inside that ship, fighting aliens hand-to-hand in the corridors of their own vessel. 2 minutes to contact, the shuttle pilot announced. Maria checked her equipment one last time. Her assault rifle was loaded with armor-piercing rounds. Her backpack contained explosives powerful enough to blow holes in bulkheads. On her belt was a simple crowbar. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Remember, she told her team over the radio, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to save our planet. The shuttle approached the alien flagship's hull. Mike Thompson aimed his cutting torch at what looked like an airlock. The aliens probably never imagined that anyone would be crazy enough to cut their way into a starship during battle. Beginning hull breach, Mike reported. The torch burned through the alien metal like butter. Whatever the Zephyrian ships were made of, it was not designed to resist simple heat and flame. Within minutes, Mike had cut a hole large enough for the boarding party to enter. We're in, Maria announced as her team floated through the breach into the alien ship. The real fight was about to begin. The inside of the alien ship was unlike anything Maria Rodriguez had ever seen. The corridors were made of the same crystalline material as the hull, glowing with soft blue light. Everything was smooth and curved, with no sharp edges or visible joints. It was beautiful, but also completely foreign to human eyes. Stay together, Maria whispered into her radio. Watch for movement. Her team moved through the ship like ghosts, using hand signals and staying in the shadows. The aliens had not expected borders, so their security systems were focused on external threats. Internal sensors were designed to track crew members, not armed invaders wearing stealth gear. Corporal Steve Martinez, the team's electronics expert, was carrying Dr. Nelson's virus on a portable computer. The virus was stored on something that aliens would never expect, a simple USB drive. While the Zephyrians used quantum entanglement for data transfer, humans still relied on physical storage devices that alien security systems could not detect. How do we find their computer core? Asked Private Lisa Walsh, keeping her rifle ready. Follow the power lines, Maria replied, pointing to conduits running along the ceiling. Every ship needs a central computer, and it needs lots of power. The RAO team followed the conduits deeper into the ship. They passed what looked like crew quarters and recreational areas, all empty because the aliens were at battle stations. The humans moved carefully, knowing that discovery would mean instant death. Meanwhile, Dr. Amy Nelson monitored the boarding party's progress from Earth. She had planted tracking devices in their equipment so she could follow their movement through the alien ship. What she saw on her screens worried her. Jake, she called to Captain Morrison. They're moving too slowly. The aliens will finish charging their final protocol before Maria's team reaches the computer core. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the alien flagship. Energy readings were climbing steadily as the massive weapon prepared to fire. They had maybe 2 hours left before Earth was destroyed. Can you activate the virus remotely? Jake asked. Amy shook her head. It has to be uploaded directly to their main computer. The virus won't work unless it can access their core systems. Inside the alien ship, Maria's team encountered their first obstacle. A blast door had sealed off the corridor leading to the ship's central sections. The door was made of some kind of energy barrier that hummed with power. "Can you cut through it?" Maria asked Mike Thompson. Mike studied the door with his engineer's eye. "Not with what we have. This thing is designed to stop plasma weapons." But Steve Martinez had an idea. He pulled out a simple electromagnetic pulse generator, the kind of device that could disable a car's computer system. "What if we don't try to cut through it? What if we just confuse it?" The EMP device was crude compared to alien technology, but it worked on the same basic principles. Steve aimed it at the control panel next to the blast door and triggered a pulse. The energy barrier flickered and disappeared. "Sometimes simple is better," Steve grinned. The team pressed deeper into the ship. They were getting closer to the computer core, but they were also getting closer to areas where alien crew members might be working. Maria knew their luck could not hold forever. It didn't. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with 3 alien engineers who were returning to their stations. The aliens were tall and thin, with silver skin and large black eyes. They wore no armor and carried no weapons, but they immediately reached for alarm switches. Maria's team fired first. Their simple bullet weapons cut down the aliens before they could raise an alarm. But the sound of gunfire would attract attention, and now there were alien bodies in the corridor. "We're compromised," Maria announced. "Double time to the target." Alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Admiral Vexitar received the report of intruders with disbelief. No species in galactic history had ever been insane enough to board an enemy flagship during battle. It violated every principle of civilized warfare. "How many?" the Admiral demanded. "Unknown, sir. Security teams are responding." But the Zephyrian security teams were not prepared for human tactics. They expected intruders to fight in formation, using energy weapons and following predictable assault patterns. Instead, they encountered soldiers who moved like guerrilla fighters, using explosives and bullets to cut through obstacles that should have stopped any civilized enemy. Maria's team reached the computer core just as alien security forces surrounded their position. The core was a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with data flows, beautiful and alien. Steve Martinez immediately began setting up his equipment to upload the virus. "How long?" Maria asked, setting up a defensive perimeter. 5 minutes, Steve replied, his fingers flying over his keyboard. 5 minutes might as well have been 5 hours. Alien security forces were closing in from all directions, and the humans were trapped in the computer room with nowhere to run. The first alien soldiers to arrive carried energy weapons that could vaporize a human in seconds. But they were not prepared for the humans to start throwing grenades. The aliens had expected a civilized fight with proper weapons, not explosions, that filled the corridors with smoke and shrapnel. Mike Thompson set up shaped charges at the entrances to the computer room. "Anyone comes through that door, they're going to have a bad day," he announced. But even as the humans fought desperately to buy time, Dr. Nelson's virus was already beginning to work. Steve had managed to upload it to the alien computer system, and now it was spreading through the ship's network like wildfire. The virus did not try to destroy the alien computers. Instead, it fed them contradictory information. Navigation systems began calculating courses to coordinates that did not exist. Weapon targeting computers started aiming at empty space. Life support systems began playing human music through the ship's communication arrays. Admiral Vexitar watched his bridge displays with growing horror. His ship's computers were reporting impossible readings. According to sensors, his flagship was simultaneously moving forward and backward, up and down, while rotating in 12 different directions at once. "What is happening to my ship?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. All systems are malfunctioning. The perfect logic of Zephyrian AI could not handle the chaos that humans had introduced." The computers tried desperately to make sense of the contradictory data, using more and more processing power until they had no resources left for normal operations. Weapon systems went offline. Shields failed. Even basic life support began to fluctuate as the ship's computers struggled with information that made no sense. In the computer core, Maria's team held their position as alien forces tried to break through Mike's explosive barriers. But something strange was happening. The aliens were moving more slowly, as if they were confused. Their weapons were not firing properly. "The virus is working," Steve announced. "Their systems are crashing all over the ship." Captain Jake Morrison, monitoring the battle from Earth, saw the alien flagship's energy signature begin to fluctuate. The massive weapon that was supposed to destroy Earth was losing power as the ship's computers failed. "Ben," Jake called to, the fighter squadron still attacking the alien fleet. "Concentrate all fire on the flagship. Its defenses are down." But Ben Parker had a better idea. "Why destroy it when we can capture it? Maria's team is still aboard." The impossible was happening. A handful of human soldiers had done what entire fleets could not. They had crippled the most powerful warship in the Zephyrian Navy, using nothing but determination, explosives, and a computer virus written by a human scientist. Admiral Vex Tar found himself trapped on his own bridge as his ship's systems failed around him. The humans had not just defeated him, they had turned his greatest strength against him. His advanced technology had become his weakness. The battle for Earth was almost over. 3 months after the battle, Ambassador Helen White walked into the Great Hall of the Galactic Council for the first time. The chamber was enormous, with representatives from hundreds of different species arranged in curved rows that reached toward a domed ceiling covered in stars. She was the first human to ever stand in this place. The assembled aliens looked at her with a mixture of curiosity, fear, and respect. News of humanity's victory over the Zephyrian Empire had spread across known space, faster than light itself. Every species in the galaxy wanted to understand how such a primitive civilization had achieved the impossible. Council leader Zarathul, an ancient being whose species had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, spoke first. Her voice echoed through translation devices that converted her words into every known language. "Ambassador White of Earth," she said formally, "you stand before this council as the representative of a species that has disrupted the established order of galactic civilization." Helen stood calmly, her simple blue suit a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by other ambassadors. She had insisted on wearing normal human clothes rather than trying to impress the aliens with fancy decorations. "Honored Council Leader," Helen replied, "we never asked to disrupt anything. We just wanted to survive." Representative Colmax of the hegemony rose from his seat. His species looked like giant insects with multiple arms and compound eyes that glittered in the chamber's light. "Your methods of warfare violate every established convention," he clicked angrily. "You use weapons that civilized species abandoned millions of years ago." Helen smiled slightly. "You call them primitive weapons, we call them effective weapons." The chamber erupted in discussion as species representatives debated among themselves. Some were angry that humans had broken the rules. Others were curious about human technology and tactics. A few seemed afraid of what humanity might do next. Dr. Amy Nelson sat in the observation gallery, watching the proceedings with interest. She had been invited to Earth's first diplomatic mission as a technical advisor. Next to her sat Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral of Earth's Space Defense Force, and General Chris Davis, who had become something of a legend among military strategists across the galaxy. "They're scared of us," Jake whispered to Amy. "They should be," she replied quietly. "We proved that their way of fighting isn't the only way." Council leader Zarathul called for order. "The question before this council is simple," she announced. "Does humanity pose a threat to galactic stability?" Representative Velnash of the Trade Federation stood up. His species resembled tall, blue-skinned humans with extra arms. "The humans defeated the Zephyrian Empire, which had conquered 12 worlds. Perhaps we should be thanking them instead of questioning their methods." But Admiral Vextar, who had been brought to the council as a witness, disagreed. The Zephyrian commander looked older and more tired than he had during the battle. His defeat had aged him in ways that went beyond physical appearance. "They are unpredictable," Vextar said bitterly. "They do not follow established patterns of warfare. They use tactics that no civilized species would consider. How can we maintain galactic peace when one species refuses to play by the rules?" Helen. White stepped forward to address the council directly. Admiral Vexitar makes an interesting point about rules, she said. But whose rules are they? When you wrote those rules, did you ask every species in the galaxy what they thought? Or did the strong simply decide what was acceptable and force everyone else to agree? The chamber fell silent. Helen's question cut to the heart of galactic civilization. The rules of war, diplomacy, and trade had been established by the most powerful species and imposed on everyone else. No one had ever questioned whether those rules were fair or even practical. The rules exist to maintain order. Council leader Zarathul replied carefully. Order for whom? Helen asked. The Zephyrian Empire was following your rules when they decided to conquer Earth. They gave us an ultimatum and expected us to surrender. When we saw their superior technology, according to galactic law, that was perfectly acceptable behavior. Representative Colmax clicked his mandibles nervously. The Zephyrians have the right to expand their territory through conquest. It is written in the Charter of Galactic Nations. Helen nodded. And we had the right to defend ourselves using whatever methods we could devise. That's also written in galactic law, though I suspect you never expected anyone to be creative about it. Dr. Nelson stood up in the observation gallery. Council. Leader Zarathul noticed her and gestured for her to speak. Honored representatives, Amy said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. Humanity spent 50 years preparing for the possibility of contact with alien civilizations. We studied your technology, your languages, and your laws. We knew that if we ever had to fight, we would be outgunned and outnumbered. She paused, looking around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces. So we decided to fight differently. We used creativity instead of firepower. We used unpredictability instead of superior technology. We won because we refused to lose. Admiral Jake Morrison was asked to explain human military doctrine. He stood and spoke with the calm confidence of someone who had faced impossible odds and survived. Every species in this chamber fights the same way, Jake said. You use energy weapons, force fields, and artificial intelligence to defeat your enemies through superior technology. But what happens when you face an enemy who doesn't have superior technology? He gestured toward Admiral Vexitar. The Zephyrian fleet was more advanced than anything humanity possessed. Their ships were faster, stronger, and better armed than ours. In a fair fight, they would have won easily. Jake smiled. So we didn't fight fair. We used nuclear weapons in space combat. We deployed computer viruses against AI systems. We boarded their flagship with soldiers carrying explosives and crowbars. We won because we were willing to do things that civilized species consider unthinkable. The implications of Jake's words were not lost on the assembled representatives. If humanity could defeat the mighty Zephyrian Empire, using primitive weapons and unconventional tactics, what could they do to other galactic civilizations? Council leader Zarathul spoke after a long moment of silence. What does humanity want from the Galactic Council? Helen White had been waiting for this question. We want to be left alone to develop in our own way. We don't seek to conquer other worlds or impose our system on other species, but we also won't be conquered or bullied by anyone else. She looked directly at Admiral Vexitar. If someone attacks Earth again, we'll defend ourselves using whatever methods prove effective. We won't limit ourselves to your rules of civilized warfare. The Council faced an unprecedented decision. They could try to suppress humanity through overwhelming force, but the Zephyrian defeat had shown that human unpredictability made such action extremely risky. Alternatively, they could accept humanity as an equal member of galactic civilization, despite their unconventional methods. After hours of debate, Council leader Zarathul announced the decision. The Galactic Council recognizes humanity as a sovereign species with the right to defend itself using its own methods. We also establish new protocols for warfare that acknowledge different approaches to conflict resolution. It was not the outcome anyone had expected when the session began. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations had been forced to change their rules because one small species had refused to be conquered. Ambassador Helen White smiled as she left the council chamber. Humanity had not just survived its first contact with alien civilization, It had changed the galaxy forever. The universe had learned that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from following established patterns, but from the courage to create entirely new ones. Earth was safe, and the galaxy would never be quite the same again.